Hi, we're talking turkey today, and happy Thanksgiving. Today we're hosting 14 friends and family. My mom will be here. They're in ages ranging from 10 to 100. We have a beautiful table set for Thanksgiving with beautiful bittersweet, the hand-blown pumpkins from local artists, and of course, the right colors and textures of the season. We're also going to do a buffet, and here's
Hey,
Nick.
happy Thanksgiving, Bob.
How are you doing, Nick?
Good. I brought the pie. It's nice and warm, straight out of the oven.
And that's a gluten-free one.
This is gluten-free. I actually made this because I realized that we have one or two people that are gluten-free today.
Correct.
So we have the apple Asiago, so I thought we should have a gluten-free for those guys.
And we're also going to be, of course, serving a boneless turkey that is stuffed with a wonderful cornbread stuffing. Gravy, of course, with that.
With potatoes.
With potato.
Sweet potatoes with pecans and maple syrup.
Nice coming. And then, of course, the cranberry sauce and seasonal vegetables. Delicious, nice menu. But we can't forget that we're starting and we're serving everything in courses. And we're going to start the evening with a pumpkin soup served in a mini pumpkin.
Right.
And you'll see it. It's wonderful. So let's get to the kitchen and start cooking.
Absolutely.
From an early start in his family's bakery to cooking for world leaders, high society, and Hollywood stars. Fresh, gourmet, simply elegant. Here's Bob Sendall, now cooking and entertaining for you with Sendall Style.
So first I'd like to talk about the stuffing because I'd like to get the stuffing working, get the vegetables cut and get everything going, and then we'll show you how to debone the turkey. So first of all, the items that are going into the stuffing are listed on the recipe, which we'll be able to get from the website and be attached. But we're really dealing with leeks, celery, onions, and we like to use wonderful oyster mushrooms. And I have mushrooms already cooking. You can substitute them with cremini mushrooms, regular button mushrooms, or you can also, if you want to put and eliminate the mushrooms, that's perfectly fine. Get that going. We're going to start with our onions, leeks, and celery. We also like to put chestnuts in our stuffing. That'll go in later. So while Nick's stirring up the vegetables, I'm going to start showing you how we debone a turkey. This is an 18-pound turkey. We like to buy local turkeys. So this is a local free-range turkey. It's about 18 pounds. The recipe can fluctuate from 18 to 24 pounds. Deboning the turkey. Cut by following bones along the back of the turkey. Leave the wings and legs intact. And you can practice on a chicken to get used to this procedure. Watch the complete deboning demonstration online at WQED.org/SendallStyle. And you pull, and it should come right out. We have this wonderful carcass. Now this is what you're going to be using to make that delicious stock, which then will turn into sauce, which then will become the gravy. And this is what it looks like after the bones are all out of it. It's a nice open piece. We'll take it, we'll refrigerate this, and then tomorrow, the next day, we would then stuff it. So I'm going to fold it, wrap it, and then in the meantime, we had our bones. We've already roasted them, and I want to take them and get them out of the oven. So the bones are nicely browned. I put my mirepoix, carrot, celery, the tops of the leeks, and we have the pieces of mushrooms that we have left, and then we brown them. Most importantly is to get them browned all the way around, as you can see. I'm going to take these and we're going to put these into our stock pot with all the mirepoix. And then I always deglaze this pan with some white wine and add it to your stock. Okay? We'll add water to this. I like to let it simmer overnight, and then of course you wake up the next day and the whole house starts smelling like Thanksgiving. We're going to move right into doing our stuffing, and basically it's going to be what most everyone loves is a good old white bread. Now I like to take the crust off the bread. Some people don't. That's my preference. But I also like to do, as you can see, about 50-50 with a basic cornbread. We bake the cornbread and we let it sit until it dries up. We crumble it, so we have 2 dry breads. You know, everyone has a tradition when it comes to stuffing. This is ours. Most importantly is, remember, you've cooked your vegetables. They're cold. We're gonna put them in, let me get these out of the refrigerator. When you're making the stuffing, make sure that everything is kept refrigerated. Remember, a cold bird, a cold stuffing, there is nothing wrong with doing that ahead of time. So we have our celery, onions, leeks, mushrooms. As you can see, I'm using a very large bowl. It helps, unless you, I remember a couple of times when I wanted to do a large couple of birds, I don't have a bowl big enough to mix it in. So I actually wipe out my sink, scour it really clean, and then I mix my stuffing in the sink. Don't ever forget that you have that large sink to work with. Some fresh eggs, a little bit of heavy cream. Now, if you want to use milk, you can. Sometimes we've done it with stock, but I prefer the cream. And so I'm mixing the cream with the eggs. And now the other thing too is if you don't like getting your hands all a mess, you might want to put some rubber gloves on. But I like to do this by hand because you can feel the stuffing. We're going to add some fresh parsley, lots of parsley, fresh thyme. This is all in the recipe. Fresh sage, not dried if you can help it. And some people are a little funny about sage, so you can put in as much as you like. And then we take bay leaves and we turn them into powder. Some salt. Now don't forget too, as you're sauteing your vegetables, you want to make sure that they're salt and peppered also. And then we add our chestnuts. I like to take a whole chestnut and I like to just cut them coarsely. Everyone has a little different traditional stuffing. You can put some sausage in here, you can put fruit in here, but it's a nice, good, basic stuffing recipe. And as you see, I'm using my hands. So if anyone doesn't like to do that, put a pair of rubber gloves on. It's a little difficult to handle with utensils. You want your stuffing to hold together, and that's what you're really going after. Now, if you feel that the stuffing is too dry, you can always add a little more heavy cream or stock. So now I have my stuffing. It's all finished. It holds together. And I'm going to now turn it over to Nick, and we're going to talk about the gluten-free breads. And it's the same recipe, but done with gluten-free.
Yes, gluten-free bread. I actually made this beautiful loaf this morning. It's made from tapioca starch, white rice flour, brown rice flour. Gluten-free is such an important thing because almost everyone nowadays has some kind of allergy. And when you do things at home, it's such a pleasure for that person with that allergy to know that you went out of your way and made your own bread. So Bob, I pretty much have the exact same ingredients that you have, except the cornbread that I made, I used corn flour.
Correct.
As opposed to all-purpose flour. So we have cornbread, we have gluten-free bread, and I think we're all ready for beautiful stuffing.
Stuffing the turkey. Debone, stuff, and lace the turkey the day before Thanksgiving. Have your skewers, strings, and scissors standing by ready for lacing. You can use either metal skewers or wooden chopsticks. So now I'm going to show you how to actually finish the turkey and how to stuff it. The stuffing is cold, the bird is cold. Most importantly, everything is cold. We definitely like to season our turkey with some kosher salt or sea salt, a little bit of pepper. Now these are things that, if you think about it, on a regular turkey when you're stuffing it, you don't get to do these things to a bird because there's all the cavity in there. So we're really adding extra flavor to this bird. I'm putting some butter in here. It looks like a lot, but this really adds to the flavor when it's all finished roasting. It also helps cook the stuffing because it's a little bit more fat into it. So basically a stick of butter. We take our stuffing and we want to form it nice and tight, and we want to put it into the bird, just like so. Now remember, this is the stuffing. Whatever I have left will be the dressing. And we'll bake that in a casserole. Usually like to fill it with about that much. So you'll always have a little bit left over. You never have too much stuffing. Remember, the day after, there's nothing like a turkey sandwich with some stuffing in it, correct? Mm-hmm. All right. This is probably the hardest part of this whole process, is how to actually get the stuffing into the bird and to get it sewn up. So we start, and I weave the skewer through here, just like you'd be sewing with a needle. And you just skewer the skin of the turkey. You want to make sure that you get a good inch of skin with each time you sew here. Okay, now I have the back of the turkey. You have to remember, when you're done roasting this, you're going to have to lift this out of the pan. So I always try to lift it and make sure that the skewers are visible, so that when I can grab a hold of them, it helps to lifting the turkey, as you'll see when it comes out of the oven. Now I go back the opposite direction, and this is what really keeps this bird held together for roasting. Okay, now I always tuck my wing bones so that it creates a little rack, as you'll see. Now we're going to take the bird. I have my skewers in. Remember, one goes this way, one goes that way. So at the end, we're going to pull them both out after it's all finished. So this is the trickiest part, because you don't want the bird to rip. You don't want any things to happen. But you literally take it, you sit it on its back end, and you kind of let it roll forward. Don't worry about any stuffing that has fallen out, because we still have time to add more. So this is another nice thing about the turkey, is when you stuff it, you can actually plump this bird up nice and full with stuffing. So we want to tie this bird now, because that's what's really going to hold the whole thing together. So now we're going to tie it. We flipped it nice and gently. We're going to take the heavy twine, got a nice long piece. It's better to have a longer piece of string so you don't have to do it twice. And you make a knot, and you want to bring the legs in. Let's see. So you bring it down. You want to crisscross the legs. You want to bring the string down. Move the bird a little bit towards the edge of your cutting board so that you can tie it nice and tight. Now I'm going around the back of the bird. Now I'm going to loop underneath the wing joints and back around. So now this is where I can really make a nice tight knot. And then I always tie a bow, because I like to be able to untie it rather than have to cut it if I can. So you can see how I've crisscrossed it underneath, around the wings, and you can see how nice it makes the breast nice and plump. Now, I want to add a little bit more stuffing right in here, and I crisscross a little bit of fat over that. I always like to use a throwaway pan. You have roasters, you have, everyone has their own traditional thing. It's very easy to use a throwaway pan. Get the one with the handles on it so that you can do anything over about a 20-pound turkey. It's probably better to go to a heavy roaster, because it's not a big enough pan for that size of a turkey. But you can see how nice and plump the breast is. I have at least half of my stuffing in here, and we're ready to put this into the pan. This goes into the refrigerator, and it will be kept refrigerated overnight, and then we will bring it out in the morning, Thanksgiving morning, to roast your turkey. So I'm going to lift it nice and gently and put it into my roasting pan. Of course, we have to talk about dessert when it's Thanksgiving, and normally everyone wants to talk about a pumpkin pie. We'd like to talk about apple pie, and actually our apple pie is finished with a little bit of Asiago cheese in the crumb crust. But we'd like to start first with making crust. I make a traditional pâte brisée. Pâte brisée is mostly butter, with a little bit of shortening in it. And so it's a very simple recipe. Once you've mixed the flours and the butter and you've put the water and you've made it, you always like to take and put the crust into a piece of plastic wrap, and you want to massage it. It's always give it the old pie crust massage. And it's a good way to incorporate the butter into the flour without overworking the dough. So I have a traditional 9-inch pie plate. The dough has rested overnight. We like to bring it out, let it sit at room temperature for a little bit so that it warms up, and it makes it much easier for rolling out. Anytime you want to experience a good crust, you want to look for the little pieces of butter. That's what makes a really nice crispy crust. So remember, don't overwork the crust when you're putting together. Put it in this plastic wrap and you're going to give it that massage as I showed you. But this is a delicious looking crust. I love rolling it out on a wood cutting board, a little bit of flour, and very simple. For those of you who have a hard time rolling pie crust, it's not a tricky thing to do. Always push away from you, turn the crust, push away from you. Turn the crust, push away from you. And it's a nice, easy way. And as you can see, I keep bringing flour underneath so that it doesn't stick to the board. If you don't like to make your own crust, of course you can buy them, but we prefer making everything from scratch. So once you have your crust all rolled out, you're going to take it, fold it in half, take your pie crust, your pie pan, excuse me, and flip the dough into it. You want to mold this into the pan, and then I always just cut the dough along the edge as so, and there's your crust. Then of course, as Grandma always taught me, you have to flute the pie. So you do it pretty quick. Remember, a pie bakes at a high temperature, so you always want to refrigerate it and get it cold before it goes into the oven. It just works better. So you have your crust ready to go. You're going to take your apples. I like to use Granny Smith apples. I think they bake the best. They're a little bit tart. They're not as sweet, but they make the best pie. They really hold up in baking, and you don't want your apples to get all mushy and be too soft. So that's why we work with Granny Smith. This pie is really a very simple recipe, but it has a couple unusual ingredients in it. So you take your apple, your Granny Smith apple. Now you don't want real small wedges, so I usually take a quarter and I cut it in thirds. We're going to toss them with a little bit of sugar. Of course, the recipe you can get on the website. We have sugar. We have a little lemon zest, a little zester, and I always like to put a little bit of lemon in my apple pies. Makes for a nice little touch. A little bit of citrus, a little bit of nutmeg. That's an optional. I'm not a huge lover of nutmeg, but it's nice in an apple pie. And then I like to use fresh ground cinnamon. Then the other item that's fun in this recipe is a little bit of black pepper. It gives it a little bit of tang and the spice. And with the Asiago cheese and the crumb crust, it really is delicious. It balances it out. So you have basically sugar, lemon zest, cinnamon, and a little bit of black pepper. So you take that, you toss your apples with that, and I'm going to take my apples and fill them into my pie crust. You might think it looks like, oh my God, all the apples in that crust, but they all cook down, as you will see. You want to put them onto a sheet pan, a baking pan, so then you add your crumb crust, and you just put it on there, and then all the pieces that fell along off to the side, you want to pick up and start playing, make it a pretty pie. You have your oven preheated at 425, and we'll bake it for approximately an hour to an hour and 10 minutes. We're gonna take the pie that I had in earlier out of the oven. The other one is baking, and you can see that the pie has sunk. It has baked beautifully. This has taken about an hour and 10 minutes, but you can see it also has cooked over a little bit. The silk pad is preventing it from burning, and then we'll just literally take it up and present it on a platter that has a nice little napkin so that it doesn't stick to the platter when you go to serve it. The pie is finished. It looks delicious. It's still warm. We're gonna let it rest. Now we're gonna show you how we set our table and get ready for Thanksgiving dinner. When you're setting your table for your Thanksgiving dinner, there's wonderful things to think about. First of all, I like to start with a nice neutral tablecloth. It's an autumn gold, and I brought out my wonderful orangish red plates, which are definitely to the season. Always think about the centerpiece, keeping it low so that everyone can talk to each other. Beautiful candlelight, soft, and always create a wonderful little setting and very, very, very comfortable for everyone. Always have a water or wine glass. Set your silverware, your flatware from the outside in. We're starting with a soup tonight, and then of course the main course. Then we like to set this ahead of time, at least 1 to 2 days ahead, so that the only thing left on Thanksgiving is to roast your turkey and have fun with your guests. So let's get to the kitchen and start doing that. Ready to roast. Remove the stuffed turkey from the refrigerator 1 hour before roasting. Preform a foil helmet for later and set aside. Baste and season your bird. You should plan on a total roasting time of 15 minutes per pound. Don't forget to allow an additional 1 hour resting time before carving. Now we're going to get the turkey out of the refrigerator that's been chilled. It has been covered. We want to remove that, and we want to baste the turkey with some brown butter. Now the brown butter, to make brown butter, you bring the butter to a boil. You let it simmer until the brown particles start forming and it foams. You want that brown nutty flavor on this. And if the turkey is not cold, the butter will not adhere to it. And you really just want to totally paint the bird with all this delicious brown butter. Now it's going into a 450-degree oven. And I have already made a aluminum foil helmet, which I molded over the turkey. I will set that aside so that when it comes out of the oven, you simply have to place this on. You don't have to get your hands burnt or anything by handling the foil and the hot turkey. So we're gonna let that cook for an hour, and we'll be back with you shortly. Now we're taking the turkey out of the oven. And look how beautiful and brown and golden that is. The way everyone wants their turkey to look on Thanksgiving. Now we're going to baste this, make our basting liquid, which I'm adding now the wine and the stock if you don't like wine. But we're basically going to fill this up with, I think it's 3 to 4 cups of liquid. Now you put the aluminum helmet onto the turkey, and you're going to roast it now for another 15 minutes a pound, roughly another 4 to 5 hours of roasting at 325 until the juices come clear when the thigh is pierced with a fork. And look how beautiful. That's been roasting for about 4.5 hours. It's absolutely gorgeous. The nicest thing about this is when you go to slice this at the table, it'll be no bones and it'll just carve very nicely. The other thing is, remember to let this rest for at least 1 hour so that it congeals and it sets so that when you go to lift it onto a platter, it will in one swoop. Here we go. Here's the turkey. Doesn't he look good? Boneless and beautiful color.
How is it boneless?
You'll see. So let me show you how easy this is to carve. What's beautiful about it is that you can get it all in one slice. Stuffing, turkey. We'll put a little mashed potatoes on the plate. A little bit of sauce, or we can call it gravy. Some some beautiful fall vegetables. Some sweet potatoes. And then how can we forget the cranberry sauce? And we're ready to serve Thanksgiving dinner. I'd like to welcome everybody to Thanksgiving dinner. I'm glad you're all here. And Mom, would you like to say a little prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, who's on our end,
Do you think she's done this before?
Why do you think I asked her? And my buddy.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yes.
So here's the apple pie. As you can see, with the Asiago topping and a little whipped cream on the sides, absolutely delicious. The apples are nice and tender, a little bit of cinnamon, and there is a little cracked pepper in the recipe, so it gives a little spice. It's quite delicious. So this is the gluten-free pie, and you can see how beautiful the crust is. It's quite light, and it cuts quite beautifully. So here's for Talking Turkey. Happy holidays to all, and happy Thanksgiving. And once again, thank you for being with us. And this is Sendall Style, and I'm Bob Sendall.
Hi, I'm Bob's mom, and if you want to know the truth, I taught him how to cook.
Add to